Valenteus has been a dominant, if intermittent, force this season. His on and off attendance has meant he's playing catch up with Nieva and Hisada. But now that drop weeks are starting to be calculated, he's looking like more and more of a serious threat. Can they finally beat him here at the Nurburgring? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. While it isn't the Nordschleife, there's still some real challenges to this GP course. Let's take a closer look with our track guide.
Known Southern Loop, and while it was updated, welcome to the Nurburgring. Often overshadowed by its older, bigger brother, the Nordschleife, the Grand Prix course has actually accrued quite a bit of history itself. This modern circuit was built in the early 80s as a replacement for the lesser-known Southern Loop, and while it was updated and extended in 2002, it stayed roughly 3 miles in length throughout its history. However, the addition of the Mercedes Arena brought about a total of 6 different layouts to choose from, with the longest including 16 turns. Though not as fearsome as the Ring, it's technically challenging and carries its own fair share of elevation change. Plus, the types of corners come in a wide variety, ranging from the heavy braking into the sharp hairpin of the first turn, to the swift Schumacher S, which is still not quite flat out in a lot of modern cars. Passing can sometimes come at a premium, and drivers are often forced to get creative if they find themselves stuck behind a competitor. But the difficulty that elicits mistakes means that patience can pay off for those who stay diligent. While Formula One raced here on and off for a few decades, it now mainly hosts GT and touring car racing, along with some lower-tier open-wheel series. In the end, race fans certainly shouldn't overlook the importance of this German circuit. While it may not carry the fame of its counterpart, it holds up well and helps keep this worldwide phenomenon relevant to modern racing.
Well, you can see the Nordschleife there in the background of this shot, but this is just the Grand Prix course that modern F1 races at, Joey.
A little bit smaller in length and only 16 turns. You can actually count them here at the Nürburgring GP layout. 3.91 miles. And when I look at this track, there is actually a ton of elevation involved, as well as a lot of apex and exit curbing that the drivers are going to be having to take advantage of in order to really extract that speed out of the car. Turn number 1, incredibly sharp, easy to overcook it in that brake zone. We'll have to watch that corner all day long, but really around this entire place, the drivers are going to be on their toes, on their braking markers, make sure not to overshoot it, and most importantly, keep these Lotus 49 cars on the concrete stuff. There's several switchback corners that you got to be really ahead of the car, ahead of the track in this place. You don't want to fall behind.
Indeed. It is definitely a very technical track, despite what it looks like maybe on the surface out there. But let's take a look at the championship so far into this season for F1s. I mentioned it. Hisada and Nieva are the ones up at the top. Now, Valenteus shows 29 points back. Some of that has been helped by the drop weeks. Otherwise, it would be much larger. But he's only finished outside of first when he showed up once so far this season, has Valenteus. If he continues to show up, and he is here today, he's going to be a real problem for Togo and Jorge because he's been much faster whenever he's around. Seb Tixier is sitting there in fourth. He has been mostly kind of enjoying his racing. Hasn't been practicing as much, but he can still be fast when he gets up to speed. So keep an eye out because maybe he could be a dark horse in this one. We also have an F2 championship, Joey. Why don't we take a look at that?
The only difference is the driver's iRating. Everybody is in the same car, and right now, Kevin Verbruggen, check it out. 49 points ahead of Jan Steffen there in the second place. So Kevin really putting his foot down in terms of this championship. But things close up quite a bit. Only 15 points separating Jan and Arnold Cook back there. 10 points between Arnold and Jonathan Jourdain. Tied up for 5th place between Rolly Wallbank and Don Peak. But look at the gaps all the way through. It's only about 5 to 10 points separating each one of these drivers, and we are definitely in the downhill swing of this championship. Lots to fight for.
Of course, for the Nations Cup, it is still Spain that is leading on that one over the UK by about 29 points. Nieva has definitely been contributing quite a bit there this season. Japan, surprisingly, down in third, despite Hisada leading the drivers' points so far. And then Tixier has been bringing Singapore into the mix. So you might be wondering, well, where does Valenteus hail from? Well, Lithuania. You can see they're down there in 8th, and the drop weeks are different in the Cup of Nations, so they're obviously lagging behind a little bit more. We'll see if they jump up a little bit if he keeps showing up each and every week. But this week's race details, let's go back to Joey for those.
We are here, round number 9 of 12 this season. 17 laps at the Nurburgring. Remember, not the Nordschleife of the GP circuit, so yes, 17 laps today. Open setup, as always. That means the drivers are free to tweak and tune that car underneath them. If you need a little bit more front end, well, guess what? You can do that. If you want to tighten up the diff in the back, you can also do that. Everybody likes to share what is fast, so go join the community, join the Discord. They love to share that stuff. No spare car involved, so if you pick up any damage, well, guess what? You got to live with it, and hopefully you don't take out one of your buddies while you do that. Drive-through penalty at 17x, disqualification at 25x. Plenty of area to run off the track here at the Nürburgring. Go collecting some of that grass and cones out there. But as always, we talk about with this car, it's about staying off of your buddies, staying off of the walls. The damage that is inflicted from some of those contacts, just way too much to continue on.
Absolutely, and right now it looks like Laust Olsen has provisional pole, but Valenteus is just getting ready to set his first lap. Let's see what he puts down, 56.3, and that's going to put him straight to the top by a full second over Laust Olsen. He is in rare form today, but we haven't seen Hisada, so we could still see it be closer than that 1 second gap up at the top, or at least the drivers better hope. Yeah, 56.6, that's much better.
And the other ones, I noticed Seb Tixier has yet to put down a lap time. Xavier Sanchez has yet to put down a lap time as well. Farron Grau. So I have a feeling that there's quite a few big, heavy hitters that either have not been able to complete their first lap time because they've got a 1X off the track or have yet to put one down.
You're right. Tixier missed his first lap. Farron Grau missed his first lap and is actually in pit lane. So not sure what's going on there. Sanchez is, I think, still on his first go. He's got to hustle, though, because it takes almost 2 minutes to get around here, and he's just getting ready to set that first time. Toga Hisada, in the meantime, heading down the hill towards the Dunlop hairpin once again. You can use that runoff right there, and that is within the boundaries, but you can see him struggling to get the power down.
All the way downhill here, really got to get on the brakes through turn 8. This long hairpin right-hander, and then the track comes back uphill into one of these really fast S sections. I meant you got to be in front of the car, in front of the track, and that is an exact opportunity right there. If you fall behind, trust me, you got to carry it with you through several corners.
Cocky improves quite a bit on his second lap. He'll go up to third ahead of Laust Olsen. Gets within about half a second of Valenteus as Togo Hisada is pushing the limits out there. Valenteus getting ready to cross for the second time up ahead of Togo. What's the second lap going to look like? 56.296, a little less than a tenth quicker. Tixier, though, his first time lap puts him within a tenth, so he is going to be a real problem for Adrius if he can back that up in the race itself.
And here comes Togo Hisada out of the final corner. Let's see what he puts down here, a 156.1. That should be straight to the top of the board for the number 3 car.
Impressive. I said that they need to try and take the fight to Adrius, and Togo said, all right, let's do it. As Sanchez, I can report, unfortunately outbraked himself into turn 1, so Sanchez will not get a lap in. And I was talking to our director about that first corner. It's quite tricky in these cars. You can see here the braking has that little curve into it, and it's difficult to find something to let you know where to brake into that turn.
You're saying it's tricky in these cars, Joe? I think that just turn one at the Nurburgring is tricky in general. You have to slow down so much. It feels like you're literally crawling through there. And then just the track completely drops away at apex. So there's a lot going on at turn one for sure.
Absolutely. Sanchez crosses the line with about a few seconds left, and he's the last one able to do so. That means our grid has been set, and Togo Hisada has definitely decided he has got to up his game as he's taken pole over Audrius Valenteus. They'll be your front row. Seb Tixier is going to be starting from third, as Nikola Kaki will be in fourth, and Laust Olsen on the inside of row 3 in fifth. And it's Richard Watson in P6. Leo Sequeiro starts seventh today, followed by Gary Ho in eighth, and Bill Tyler starts ninth, with John Olsen rounding out your top 10.
Then we have Kevin Verbruggen. Remember, he is your F2 points championship leader. He's starting in the 11th place position. Ben Zocco next to him in 12th. Jeff Saunders lined up in 13th. Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado in 14th. David Rossi 15th. Matthew Maudsley in 16th. Rolly Wallbank 17th. Alan Graham in 18th. And then on row number 10 is Robert Plumley and Roberto Prengrazi.
John Steffen starts 21st today, followed by Cam Porter in P22. Tobias Harnvey in the 23rd spot. Mats Linden starts 24th today, with the quarter-century mark going to Derek Matthews. Jonathan Jordan starts in at 26. He's got Andre Bruno on the inside of the next row, Paul Ferrer to the outside. Timothy Porter starts 29th, and Dario Eder starts 30th.
31st, we have Xavier Sanchez, and then Farron Grau lined up next to him in 32nd. Be careful of that row. That's a fast pair right there, starting in the back. Thomas O'Leary in 33rd. Christian Tanahote in 34th. Michael Grissinger, 35th. Kurt Clapper, 36th. Matthew Jolly in 37th. And the final two, Eugenia Massa and Don Peak, rolling out in 39th.
So 39 cars. It looks like they're all gridded up and ready to go as the engines now start to rev. The lights come up here, and the green flag is out, and it's a bad start for Togo Hisada. Valenteus is immediately in front of him, but by the time they start this one off, Seb Tixier looking around the outside as they fly down in the first corner. They're going to fan out, but will they get through safely?
Look at how packed turn one is getting. A couple little contacts further in the back of the pack, and now somebody is turned around, but it is all the number one car. He got the whole shot, got around our pole sitter of Togo Hisada, and now he's trying to run away. Seb Tixier in third.
That was Grissinger, was our lone victim of turn one here. Thankfully, everybody else seems to have managed to survive it already. Valenteus going to try and run away from Hisada. Tixier third with Kaki hot on his heels. Olsen looks like he's dropping back early.
Yeah, back to the 5th place position for Laust Olsen. So right where he started, hanging tough, but he has lost a little bit of ground. Right behind him is Richard Watson and Leo Sequeiro looking for a way around as they enter this turn 8 hairpin for the first time.
Looking a little bit farther back at Robert Plumley. Look at how packed up it still is amongst everybody here. 39 cars is plenty, as I think Derek Matthews somewhere down the field looks like he has had a problem. He drops down the order as we watch them head through the Schumacher S, and somebody's cutting through.
I think that's going to just be a kind of a case that's going to happen all day. There's a lot of these switchbacks on this course, and I mentioned it, if you're not in front of it, you are behind it, and it can catch you out just like that. This is David Rossi, battle for 16th place.
Ooh, and a lot of cars getting close side by side here. Rossi on the attack on Plumley, coming up to the heavy braking at the final chicane. Behind them, they've also got Matthew Maudsley, but a defensive move from Plumley will fend off Rossi. Here is up in front of them. That's Laust Olsen, who's gone off track.
Oh, he is recovering, but he's on the wrong side of the track, entering the final turn here on lap number 1. So not the best first lap for Laust Olsen. He has recovered, but lost a few positions.
Yeah, spun it out as he outbraked himself into that one. He's already on the attack, trying to see if he can pass Rossi back into turn 1. He's got the inside, and through the corners we check out Richard Watson as well. A number of battles there on lap 2 down into the Haug Hook.
Yeah, I think Richard Watson is just making his way around Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado right here. or I believe it is the number 14 gaining that position. A great side-by-side battle, and look at all of these cars really squirm, wiggling for traction as they exit the corner.
All the way through the Mercedes arena, neither willing to give way, but Watson will prevail to get that 10th spot. Next on his list would be Bill Tyler. If he can make up the gap, he's lost a little bit with all that wheel-to-wheel racing.
And, shout out to a car directly in front of this, that the number 12 car, Ben Zocco. I'm noticing up 4 positions into the 8th spot as we check in on Andreas Valenteus. I've been noticing he's stretched it out over Togo Hisada and Nikola Kaki there in the 3rd place, about 1 second gap to each of them.
Yeah, if I remember last week, Zocco was having a bit of a poor run last time out, so we'll see if this as a return to form for Zocco, being into the top 10. Valenteus almost a second ahead of Hisada, so he hasn't completely shaken him, but he's definitely out of arm's reach as we go back to Laust Olsen on his recovery drive.
Remember, Laust is making his way through again. He's right on the back of Robert Plumley. See if he can make a move here. He's got to the outside of the track, but this is one of those chicane sections here. You got to jump up over these curbs. That's exactly where Laust was having the problems on the lap prior.
Someone on the inside going slow. Looks like Salgado. Wonder if he cut the course a little bit there and is having to give the time back. Yes, indeed, he is. Looks like he's now done so as we got a replay. Let's take a look at what happened here earlier in the race, as this is down into the first corner, to see what turned around Michael Grissinger.
I think there was a little bit of contact to his right rear, but Joe, I mean, we're 4 wide here in turn number 1. Looks like Grissinger's all the way over on the outside.
Ooh.
And just wheel-to-wheel contact from another car bouncing into him. I don't think the 23 even saw what was happening.
Yeah, very much an innocent victim on that one, so it's just a good thing that that car did not land on top of him or wind up rolling over. So could have been a lot worse, but I'm sure that's not much of a compensation there to Michael Grissinger, who is back up to 31st, but still has a lot to do here. I also saw a spin from Dario Etter that Grissinger just went by. But we're watching Robert Plumley, who's under attack from Laust Olsen, still has not been able to make the pass quite yet.
And Robert Plumley's kind of the yellow car in the middle of the sandwich. He is chasing down Jeff Saunders directly in front of him, but he's got to deal with the pressure from Laust Olsen right behind, as well as trying to figure out a way around Jeff Saunders. And here comes Laust with another fantastic run, but Robert just puts his car right in the middle of the racetrack. A nice defensive posture. Doesn't go all the way down to the inside, forces Laust to go the long way around, but then leaves him a little bit of room there, corner entry of the next turn. A nice racing move from both of these drivers.
And now Salgado is joining them because he had that slowdown penalty last time around. Up coming into this corner, actually. Heavy braking once again. Plumley defending almost every corner at this stage. Let's see if that will hurt him. No, he gets a fantastic exit.
Well, and how does Laust handle this situation? He was usually one of the cooler drivers out there, but he has lost about 9 positions from where he started. He knows that he's faster than the car right in front of him, but you have to be able to make the move cleanly.
Exactly. Oh, and did something happen to Nick Kaki? Yeah, he's lost a couple positions. He's down to 5th. And that must have been in turn 1 because they're now into the Mercedes arena. So Sequeiro gets by. Looks like Seb Tixier as well.
Actually, there was some contact between Nikola Kaki and Seb Tixier in turn number 1. So if we do end up getting a replay, it was just Nikola losing it all by himself. Seb Tixier trying to avoid, but it looks like the two don't have any damage per se, at least that I can see.
Yeah, like you said, it's a tricky first corner in just about any car, let alone these things. I definitely anticipated that was going to be a flashpoint, trying to get it down to that sharp apex into there as we continue to watch John Olsen behind Gary Ho. Excellent race for Gary Ho here today, up close to the top 5.
Hey, yeah, you're right. Gary Ho doing a great job. This is the GSRC replay of exactly what happened here in turn number 1. Watch the white car. He's going to spin it all by himself here. Just a little bit too fast going into the turn. Out comes the back, and then the blue car, Seb Tixier, just nowhere to go. And I can report, Joe, Seb Tixier, who's currently running in the 3rd place position, I'm looking on board, definitely has steering damage.
Oh, no. Well, Laust Olsen doesn't seem to have steering damage as he's still threatening Plumlee, but can't make it stick. That's going to cause him to be slow coming out of the Warsteiner curve. And Salgado gets close to him, but he washes out through the fast Advan Bogan kink up into the braking of the final chicane. They'll continue to stay nose to tail, and now they're getting more friends. Thomas O'Leary is the next one in the group. And while staying to the outside, O'Leary actually manages to sneak through. There he is.
Yeah, he did an excellent move, just kind of took advantage of Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado. He was just hanging out, watching the battle of Laust and Jeff right in front of him. And speaking of, here comes Laust down to the inside here in turn number 1. Can he get the car stopped? There's a car spun right in front of him. Oh, that means avoidance maneuver, but not so much for Laust. He escapes nice and clean.
Oh, man, just unfortunate timing for Plumlee. He was doing everything right, and a car was in his way, had to give it up. I guess that's the break sometimes. That actually, I think, lost him a couple positions. He's down to 14th after that one.
And I can report that car that spun there in turn 1, well, that was Kevin Verbruggen. That's our F2 points championship leader. Thankfully, he's got a big gap there, remember. So he has recovered back in 18th, but definitely lost a handful of spots.
So let's see. Looks like we got a replay of the spin. And all by himself, once again, just incredibly tough to get the car woed up. And then once you realize you're going too fast, it's too little too late. And there you can see Plumlee having to go the long way around.
But hey, you know what? Credit to Kevin, because he did not put it in gear and just pull back out in front of those cars. He waited for that pack to pass and waited for an opportunity to get back out onto a clean racetrack, which is exactly what he did. And Togo Hisada has not let go of Andreas Valenteus. If anything, he has closed it in, and they are starting to deal with the lap traffic.
That's Pole Fair, who's going to stay out of the way, it looks like. So that won't be an issue. And then it's a long ways up to the next lapped car. That's going to be Derek Matthews as it stands currently. Tixier in third, 7 seconds behind. Unbelievable pace from those top two, although some of it has been helped by, of course, Tixier running into the damage. Yeah, wow, you weren't kidding about his steering being off.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at how he's having to hold this thing, but I mean, look at the jacked arms. Seb Tixier has been working out in Miami a lot recently.
Yeah, it's the same background as last time, so I'm not sure what the theme has been lately, other than Miami, as you suggested. He's keeping Nick Kakia behind him pretty well, but I got to imagine that's going to be difficult as time goes on. Meanwhile, O'Leary wheel to wheel here with Jeff Saunders coming through the Mercedes arena. Saunders tries to cut back underneath, and he does an excellent job of snatching that position back.
Yeah, Thomas O'Leary working his way up through for sure. Jeff Saunders trying to tread water right now. Remember, it was Laust that got through, and then Thomas O'Leary snuck through from Marco, and now he's snuck through on Jeff Saunders as well. So got to keep an eye out for that number 10 car. Did you see up 22 positions so far?
Wow. That's, I mean, did he set a time? No, it looks like he did not set a qualifying time. I wondered, because that's some impressive pace if he actually legitimately qualified out there. But O'Leary picking up the pieces while others seem to be falling by the wayside out here. I said it's a difficult track. It's a very technical track. But it looks like if you keep it on the pavement, keep a good pace, you're going to pick up a lot of them.
This is just the thick of this battle here. Richard Watson, who is the number 14 car, kind of falling down a little bit, chasing Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado in the number 16. All of these drivers just kind of hanging station right now. We're right in the middle of the race. This is when the drivers really kind of have to buckle down. You've had the short little adrenaline rush of the sprint, but now is really when you have to settle in and start turning those consistent laps that you've practiced.
As Richard Watson brings it back onto the main straight once again. We've certainly seen lots of close battles out here, but we've also seen it looks a little bit tough to pass at times. He's going to take a big dive down the inside. Is he actually going to manage to make it stick, though? He gets down to the apex, and indeed, Richard Watson up to 13th.
Yeah, and Jeff Saunders had a big-time lockup right in front of this number 14 car, so I'm sure that Richard Watson, after making that initial pass in turn number 1, he says, well, hey, it looks like Saunders, the car right in front of me, is a little bit off of the racing line. Maybe I can capitalize on some over-unders. They're a fantastic exit out of that turn as we check in on Ben Zocco continuing his charge up through the field as well.
He had a try at Gary Ho, but he was very shallow coming down into Ford curve. So no dice this time. And another look coming down into the hairpin on top of things. So he's definitely trying to see if he can shake that number 13 car, but nothing happening quite yet. Behind them, they've got Bill Tyler as we check in with Timothy Porter here, the ever-popular crowd favorite, the Netscape car.
And right now, he's chasing the number 31 of Matthew Jolly. Matthew has actually gone up a few positions, but Tim Porter doing a nice job hounding the back of him, just kind of being that anxiety maker to Matthew up there. Oh, as he looks down the inside of turn number 8, didn't really have a whole lot of room, but he is just kind of forcing the issue, having a great two-car race back here.
Yep, so this is for 33rd spot, still on the lead lap, mind you, as once again tries to look down to the inside, but it is shockingly difficult to try and pass through that hairpin with the banking.
Jump up here with the other Porter now, and Cam Porter actually has pressure from Xavier Sanchez right behind him. Xavier's going to try to do the over-under on Cam. Let's see if he's going to be left room on the inside of the final turn. Yes, so through goes Sanchez. Cam Porter going to try to do an over-under, but I think he realized that number 4 car has a lot of speed. He might try to follow Xavier through on Rolly Wallbank right in front of him.
Sanchez typically going for wins here, so for him to be still stuck back in 20th, make that 19th. There it is, as he goes by Wallbank. He's on the back foot and is just playing catch-up for his lack of a qualifying lap.
Actually, Rolly slides a little bit wide as Laust continues his action-packed race, chasing Thomas O'Leary right now. He's got the inside line, but Thomas hanging tough around the outside, keeps it on the racetrack. That'll benefit him right here. Can Laust end up putting the power down? Yes, he gets a nice run out of the corner. This is going to lead down into that turn 8 hairpin.
Boy, O'Leary's got a fire lit under him the way he's defending, and once again trying to keep Laust Olsen off of him as they come through the hairpin, and that's going to be a better exit for Thomas. Still within the top 10 at this stage. In fact, O'Leary's that one we were talking about that has gained a ton of spots, up 23 now that he's gained. A little bit farther ahead, Gary Ho, sandwiched between John Olsen and Ben Zocco.
It's a fantastic fight right here in the middle of the race. Gary Ho in this bright purple helmet, bright purple car, looking down to the inside. Oh, he's got a big lockup. He's going to make contact right there with John Olsen, sends him spinning around. Gary stays on the racetrack, but the number 5 car loses a ton of position.
And an immediate sorry from Gary Ho over the text chat. Again, these drivers try to race as clean as they can, so he's going to feel a little bit sheepish about that one. As up farther ahead, I saw Tixier took a look down to the inside on Nick Cocky. In fact, he is going to fail to make that pass as he goes way too deep, and Nick saw it coming. He lets him through and takes third right back.
I don't blame Seb at all right now. Remember, we talked about that steering damage. He is having to drive around a wounded race car out there, so doing the best he can, trying to maximize that pace as Ben Zocco back here just continues to hound the back of Gary Ho. And both of these drivers, they're up several positions from where they started, so trust me, this is a fight going forward.
Yeah, Zocco up 5 here. Gary Ho up 2 from where he qualified today as they come down the hill once again. I mean, this still is at the Nurburgring, and while it may not show as much as what you see at the Nordschleife, there's a lot of elevation change at the GP course, and this is, I believe, the lowest part of the track here before they're going to rise back up.
I think so. I think you're right. That is the lowest section here on the GP course. But the other thing, not only the elevation, but look at the size of the curbs, both the apex curbs and the exit curbs. You really have to maximize all of the concrete available on this track in order to, what I say, extract that maximum, or I should say minimum lap time, really. Just have to understand this place and use it all.
Back up to our leaders. I think they're getting close to lapping Pole Fair for a second time. I wonder if he's got some sort of damage on the car that they've already gone back around, because still a long ways away from the next car up currently. Valenteus has been holding at about this second to half a second ahead of Togo Hisada for much of the race. I think Togo's going to have to turn up the wick if he hopes to try and challenge him.
I agree, but on the other hand, we still have 7+ laps left, so there's a lot of racing still to go. Consider it just ticking past the halfway mark, really. I think Togo Hisada has proven that he can hang on the back of Valenteus, but like you were saying, does he have enough pace to actually go up there and overtake? I'm not sure, but for sure, these two have been the class of the field today.
Like I said, if Valenteus keeps showing up, then he's going to have to find some pace and start beating him on track, because Adrius will be saved by those drop weeks and will eventually move up to the top spot. Consistency has definitely been more the friend of Togo and Nieva. Unfortunately, I don't think we have Jorge Nieva here today. No, we do not. I think it's Jorge who has finished lower than 6th only once this whole season.
Yeah, he has been Mr. Consistency out there. And talking about Jorge Nieva, as we saw just a little mistake out of Christian back there. He graduated, correct me if I'm wrong, out of the F2 championship into the F1 championship and has really come a huge ways in terms of that pace. Kind of a proven ladder system as Jorge Nieva.
Exactly. Well, and you know, you talked about the strength of his consistency. It's not just that. He went from winning that F2 championship to getting some podiums in the overall to suddenly he started winning races, and now he's fighting for that championship. Realistically, unfortunately, it looks like he's showed up at the same time that Valenteus has, so bad timing on his part, but regardless, he's been holding his own as we watch Verbruggen, our points leader in the F2 standings, still down in 17th. He's lost a couple because of his early spin, but he's got David Rossi, former F2 champion, just in front of him.
And I think that we can draw a lot of parallels that we were talking about Nieva and Adrius showing up and how fast it is. Well, Kevin Verbruggen right here, remember, he's our F2 points championship leader, albeit just a little bit of a self-spin earlier. He doesn't care if these are F1 drivers or F2 drivers out here battling. He wants to fight for positions. He wants to finish as high up as possible. So I have a feeling that each one of these drivers, they want to swim in the deep end as Kevin is making a move down here into turn number 1. He's actually got pressure from behind. A little bit of contact between the two cars, but Kevin escapes.
That was Xavier Sanchez and some netcode involved in that as they ghosted through one another. Sanchez spins. He'll carry on, having only lost a little time to those that he was fighting with, but I'm sure he's not happy with how that went after he had done a great job climbing up the order. Ben Zocco, in the meantime, up here in 7th, putting pressure on Gary Ho as he has been for much of the race, and he's going to look to the inside once again. This time, is it a serious attempt? Oh, he tries to get overlap.
I tell you what, it's closed in John Olsen, but the other thing that these drivers have to be aware of, there is 2 cars right behind this 3-pack that is faster than them, and they are catching them up hand over fist right now. If Gary Ho and Ben Zocco continue to battle, trust me, Thomas O'Leary and John Olsen, as well as maybe even Laust Olsen, they're going to be there soon.
Oh, this is going to get interesting because Seb got a great run coming out of the right-hander as they approach the braking, coming up to the final chicane. He is going to try to dive to the inside. This time, he makes the apex, and he is through into 3rd.
Nice move there from Seb Tixier. So move him up into that podium position. Nicola, can he respond right here? As you see up on your screen, purple fast lap from our leader. He's trying to run away from Togo Hisada. But honestly, the one thing about this blue car, we got to remember, he still has steering damage. I don't think this one's going to be over.
Yeah, he's been dealing with it admirably as Kaki is just hanging in there behind. I'm sure he's going to try to do something to get it back, but Seb certainly looks like he's still quick in spite of the damage. Ben Zocco has looked quick too, but Gary Ho has been unwilling to give up that 6th place, and like you talked about, all their friends are going to be joining pretty soon. Bill Tyler definitely now in the fray.
Right on the back end there is Bill Tyler. So Ben Zocco, another tremendous corner exit. Can he make something happen here? Just not a big enough brake zone to make that lunge down the inside. He's constantly posturing, trying to show the nose, push Gary Ho off of the racing line however he can. But I tell you what, Gary Ho's just doing a tremendous job. He's not all the way down to the inside on these defensive maneuvers. He's just exiting the corner very nicely.
And interestingly, it's probably Bill Tyler that needs to give these two the most leeway, because Ben Zocco and Gary Ho racing out of Australia and Singapore respectively. Oh no, something's happened to Tixier. Tixier's off and spinning around. He had an accident somewhere partway through the field. That looks to be out of the Schumacher S.
Yeah, and I can report that I think this is just steering damage. Joe, he lost it all by himself up over these switchback curbs. We're going to get a GSRC replay of exactly what happened to Seb Tixier. Watch him all the way on the corner exit here. The car just snaps loose, and when you don't have the straight steering angle, it can be tough to find that center.
Yeah, around it goes. Now, afterwards, though, he had some weird stuff going on where he's still accelerating. It looks like he intentionally accelerates, but maybe he's just discovering that the car is not engaging. Yeah, look at that left rear wheel. He eventually figured out that he does not have drive.
Yeah, extremely unfortunate, but I think, honestly, if you asked Seb Tixier, he probably would say it was bound to happen, especially from that damage earlier on, as Gary Ho still continues to defend from this number 12 car. John Olsen still on the back end, but we got to look. Thomas O'Leary, he's only about a second and a half out now.
And credit to the drive within Seb, too, to fight that damage that whole race and keep going for what it was a potential podium for him. But it was just a bit too much damage to bear on that second one. Ben Zocco here. Ooh, he's awful close, and he's done that a couple times now, looking to the inside of the Ford curve. Just not enough braking into there.
And it's just the difference between the two drivers and the racing lines that they're taking. And you see Gary Ho just put it right in the middle of the racetrack, just persuade Ben Zocco not to make those lunges up the inside. But I'll give credit to Ben right here. He hasn't been close enough to make any sort of big-time lunge, so he hasn't. He's keeping the racing nice and clean.
Credit to all three of them, really, as with Bill Tyler back there, continuing to hound both of them. But as they work their way through the left and then right, once again, back downhill briefly for these cars, and then is steeply uphill, up towards the chicane where they separate. I don't think anybody's close enough to quite have a try at one another this time, coming up to this long braking to the chicane.
Make sure to keep it in the lines here. Don't get any of these slowdowns. And oh, no problem for the number 21 of Matthew Maudsley. You see him spun off to the side of the racetrack and rejoining quite nicely once he had a little bit of a free area.
I think he had some help, too. Unfortunately, Sanchez, I think, got into him. Sanchez has got to watch out. It's a 4X for contacting other cars. And you mentioned that incident limit when we went over the race details. You add that up to all the off tracks potentially. He could be close to that limit.
You don't really think about it because usually you pick up sort of that damage, but you're right. Sometimes you can keep collecting those 4Xs, especially if you're one of these fast guys. Starting way in the back is Kevin Verbruggen. Keeps putting the pressure here on Jeff Saunders. Remember, Kevin had that early spin, trying to recover his way through the field.
And remember, for our viewers that are new to this series, we talk about the F2 Championship with Kevin. They're all the same car. These are all the same Lotus 49 that they are racing. So there is no difference. It is all to the driver iRating. And on top of that, you know, you touched on it earlier, Joey, all the positions count for the same points for each class. So the higher he can finish overall, that's why he's fighting these F1 drivers.
Well, I just think that if you ask any one of the drivers, hey, do you care about the driver rating? They would say absolutely not. Now, if you look at the championship points table, that gives you something to fight for, and especially gives you something to graduate out of. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a carrot to go chase out there, but if you put two cars on the racetrack at the same time, I think the driver rating goes out the window. Everybody just wants to be the fastest, and that's why we're all here.
Ooh, this is a very good run from Verbruggen as we're watching on board with Zocco, and I think Kevin's going to get another spot off screen as he just overtook Jeff Saunders for 14th. Zocco, though, here is getting almost within touching distance of Gary Ho, coming up into the final hairpin once again. That turn one has been the main place where we've seen drivers attempt passes, but this doesn't look like he's quite close enough.
Well, let's get a little nerdy here, as it really is kind of the closest battle on the racetrack. Ben Zocco is so aggressive on corner entry, right? We've really been seeing him poke the nose down to the inside. But Gary Ho, his defense is all on corner exit, and that is the perfect defense. If you can exit the corner better than your competitor behind you, well, guess what? They're not going to be able to catch you down the straightaway. That's exactly what that purple helmet number 13 has done. Ben Zocco, aggressive on entry. Gary Ho nailing the exit, keeping Ben at a stiff arm length.
Well, and you know, everybody wants that hero moment of looking incredible on the brakes and blowing by their competitors. But yeah, I always liked the advice. It's easier to pass in a straight line than it is into a corner. So get that run off of it, and you're going to be sitting much better as we check out Mats Linden, seeing if he can accelerate better than Jan Steven. This is for 21st position.
Also has Farron Grau, that red car, approaching from behind. So two-car battle is about to be a three-car train here as we exit out of the little arena section. Oh, big old power slide there from Mats Linden, trying to put his right foot to the floor.
Yeah, that little Mercedes arena is such a finicky little part of the track, especially in these cars where they don't like low revs, and they will jump on you if you try and get on the throttle too hard. Meanwhile, battle just in front of them for 19th spot. Rolly Wallbank in a nice little tussle with Christian Tanahato, who is up 14.
And there goes Gary Ho, a big lockup. He is going to skip the chicane. He finally has to concede those positions to Ben Zocco. Bill Tyler slips through as well. And tell you the truth, here is John Olsen. He's going to try to take advantage of the slowdown from Gary Ho.
Wow, incredible from Zocco. He just chipped away at that dam until it would finally break, and now he is through and clear. But yeah, you're right. He's got to play defense almost immediately. And it looks like actually Gary Ho recovered pretty decently from that cut course. He's back by about a second, but he's not completely out of it. He also has his own problem from behind, John Olsen.
Yeah, and John has really been the fastest of this group of cars. Thomas O'Leary is actually catching them as well. So I mentioned the two fastest out of this train of five, definitely the furthest to rearward. Gary Ho has put up a valiant defense all race. He's going to have to do it for another lap and a half.
I can report we were watching Mats Linden earlier. Unfortunately, he got into the back of Farron Grau and lost his nose cone. Thomas O'Leary, man, what a race. You got to wonder what would have happened if he did get a qualifying lap in. Right now, his best sits at a 56.8, and that would have put him, I believe, somewhere within the top 10 in qualifying from what I'm seeing just at a quick glance. I'll have to do the actual math in there to see where that would put him. But Thomas O'Leary closing in on John Olsen, which has become quite the little fight here with him behind Gary Ho, Bill Tyler, Ben Zocco.
And really, as they are coming to complete this lap, I think that Thomas O'Leary sees still a bunch of positions that are available right here in front of him, because Gary Ho is having to defend from John Olsen. So the race is far from over as our leader puts down another fastest lap of the race of 55.7. Valenteus on another planet.
Yeah, just looking pretty untouchable. In fact, he's dropped Togo Hisada. It's up to about 2.5 seconds between himself and the Japanese driver as we ride on board with Bill Tyler. I was noticing he was getting very, very close to Ben Zocco. In fact, he's going to give a try down into the first corner. Since this is the last lap, he knows it is do or die. Ben says, no, you don't, and defends.
Really good job getting the car stopped from that number 12 of Ben Zocco. And we got to remember, this is a fight for the top 5 right now. Ben has gained 7 positions to fight his way all the way there. He is not going to go down without at least an arm wrestle.
So what can he do from here on out? Is Valenteus up at the front, very clear. There you can finally see in the background Togo Hisada, who has unfortunately not been able to hold station right behind the number 1 machine. But I have to say, I think this is one of the strongest fights I think we've seen Togo and many others give Adrius in some time.
And I was watching this out of what you like to say half an eye, Joe, but Togo Hisada had a couple big lockups in turn one. Other than that, his pace was right on it. So, yeah, just a couple small mistakes. That's where the gap came from.
Oh, you've got to bring that A game if you want to try and beat the big A, Adrius Valenteus here, as he comes through the final chicane for the final time and up towards the last hairpin. He has looked pretty flawless. It's going to take a flawless attempt to get by him and take a win away from Adrius Valenteus, who takes victory at the Nurburgring.
Togo Hisada crosses the line just a few seconds behind. Not the checkered flag that he wanted, but still a good points day. This is Nick Lukaki coming around the final turn. He will round out that podium. I'm watching Ben Zocco right now. Bill Tyler is trying to sneak up the outs or the inside around the final turn, but Ben Zocco really shuts that down. Can Bill pull the over-under?
Oh, doesn't look like it. A smooth exit from Zocco. Has been just an unbelievable drive from this number 12 to take a top 5 here today. I hope he's hyped on that one, because I certainly enjoyed getting to watch it. Gary Ho unfortunately wound up 9th in the end. Looks like O'Leary got him right at the final ask, as Kevin Verbruggen is going to wind up 14th, and he's 600ths off of Salgado for a P13.
Watch out for that Zocco smoke machine on the front straightaway, as we're watching Alan Graham back here in the battle for what is 25th place. Tobias Harnvey right now leading that. Alan trying to get around a little bit of a lockup from both. We got some contact, and that's going to actually open the door for Jonathan Jourdain.
That was Alan Graham, who wound up in the back of Tobias Harnvey. Unfortunately, both of them outbraking themselves, as Jourdain will get both spots at the very last 2 corners. Well then, Kurt Clapper brings it in as we're the last on the lead lap. In fact, I think Timothy Porter in the Netscape car are going to be our final driver to be able to finish all laps of this race, which means it's time to head to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to the Nurburgring. Our round 9 for the Grand Prix Legends at the Grand Prix course sees Andreas Valenteus take the win after Togo Hisada was on the pole, but he lost that lead right at the start of the race. He wound up second, and he held on to Andreas other than a couple mistakes close to the end of the race. Nicola Kaki finishes third after a huge battle with Seb Tixier, with Nicola coming out the victor on that and Seb wrecking in the end. Leo Sequeiro was fourth as Ben Zocco fought hard to get this fifth place today, starting 12th. Bill Tyler was P6, and then John Olsen was 7th today. Thomas O'Leary, failing to set a qualifying time, goes from 33rd to 8th as Gary Ho slips backwards very late in the race, winding up 9th, and Laust Olsen gets 10th today.
Richard Watson winds up in 11th, Robert Plumley in 12th. Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado finishes in 13th. Kevin Verbruggen, remember he is our F2 points championship leader, slipped down a few spots from where he qualified, but a nice recovery for that number 20 driver, finishing a 14th. Jeff Saunders back here in 15th. David Rossi 16th. Xavier Sanchez, after not putting down that qualifying time, gains 14 positions to finish in 17th. Cam Porter in 18th. Christian Tanahote in 19th. And Rolly Wallbank in your top 20.
21st is going to go to Farron Grau as Jan Steven was 22nd. Then it was Mats Linden, P23. Andre Bruno was 24th, followed by Jourdain, who had a little slip up in the race and wound up 25th. Tobias Harnvey, P26 for him. Alan Graham, a last lap, essentially failed attempt down to the chicane, sent him to 27th. And Kurt Clapper climbed upwards from 36th to 28th. And it was Michael Grissinger. Lap 1 kind of got turned around by a little bit of a spin from somebody else and climbed back up to 29th. Not too bad. Eugenio Massa was 30th.
Timothy Porter back here in 31st, the last car to finish on the lead lap. And then Derek Matthews collects the checkered flag 1 lap down. Dario Etter in 33rd. Matthew Maudsley unfortunately did not finish the race, and the last person to actually complete today's race, Don Peak, back here in the 35th spot. All of the rest of the names that you see on the screen did not make it to the end.
Unfortunate to see, but Togo Hisada did make it to the end, just a little bit shy of the lead, though, at the checkered flag. Certainly gave it a good try to keep up with Andreas and Togo. Let's start at the beginning of the race. What happened off the line? Was it wheel spin or something in the setup?
Just a little bit afraid of the wheel spin, so that just the RPM is too low, and it's like the it feels like it's very stopping the start line. Yeah, I just really takes time to reach the rev under the so that just so slow at the moment of the start.
So I guess just too low a revs in the end. Easy to do, I'm sure, especially with how finicky this car is. You stayed close behind Andreas for much of the race. Do you feel like you had a chance to try and attack at any point, or was that 100% you couldn't get closer?
The 50. The pace is barely even less pace. And I see the sometimes a little mistake from the Andreas, but not a big mistake at all. And I just big mistake on the last 3 laps. Yeah, into the turn 1, just looks a little bit at the right front tires and overheat it, and that's it. Yeah, there's no chance to follow Andreas after that. So he's very consistent, and very tough to follow.
Yeah, I think we can't blame you for having trouble keeping up with him, considering how fast he is. Do you take positives out of this, that you feel like you're pretty close on speed, though, that maybe you can try and beat him in one of the final 3 races?
Looks like. I think that Andreas has less practice this week. I think. Yeah, he's really find the lines in the first 3 or 4 laps. So that's why I just followed. I can follow him. And my university ending, and the spring vacation this week, start of this week. So I just lots of practice than the past few weeks. So I'm really I believe I have the chance to battle with Andreas in the last 3 weeks.
Well, I guess to get kind of saccharine on things, sometimes you need to believe in yourself to be able to take that first step to doing it. But congratulations on a podium today, and honestly, impressive race, keeping pressure on Andreas.
Thank you.
That was Togo Hisada P2, and third behind him was Nicola Kaki, as Joey has caught up with the man that had quite the fight with Seb Tixier.
Well, Nicola, first of all, congratulations on the podium finish. How was it for you?
Yeah, hi guys. That was tough. It was tough because I had that pretty long battle with Seb, but it was tough because I wasn't very on top of my game today. I even had to change a few lines in some corners during the race, which is something that you should never do. You guys watching from home, and but I was just training not very good, training in the bad way, which is maybe even worse than no training. So I had to revolutionize all my lines or my reference. And because I saw many people were riding the curbs a lot, and I didn't had a lot of time to change that, so I was a little slowish, I would say. And after the crash that we had between me and Seb, he had a bent wheel, and I was able to stay with him only because he had a broken car, basically. My car was a little bit funny in some corners, but it was more or less okay. So that was lucky in that situation there. But it was fun until it lasted, of course. It was a bad luck from Seb. He cut the curbs 2 times. He had 2 slowdowns. And in the end, the car was too bent to finish the race. So I just saw him like having a big moment, and I was okay. Another big moment, okay. Third big moment, I was something is fishy here. And after that, I was just seeing the car going backwards. So yeah, I thought it was the end for him.
Well, you mentioned it was a battle because he had a little bit of a wounded race car. If he didn't, where do you feel that you needed to improve, or was it mainly the car, or just kind of the practice time for you that you needed?
Well, I had the practice time, but my practice time it was wasted basically because I wasn't able to copy basically the lines from the faster guy. So when 2 days ago I had my first race, I saw Odrius was taking like very different line what I was doing it. Yeah, I had no real reference because last time I raced here with the 49 was years ago. So I just came in with a blank sheet, and I had to relearn everything. And of course, I think that my usual weakness in this car is that I drove it too hard. I'm sliding too hard, power sliding much more often than the other fast guys. So my car tends to have less grip because of overheating sometimes, and I have to be more gentle. But as I like a more visual, a more passionate way of driving this car, because it's so fun sliding around. And it's too bad that I can't be on top of the other guys, but it's still fun.
Well, Nicola, congratulations one more time on the podium finish here today. Fantastic race.
Thank you, guys. I want to thank Seb Tixier as well, because he's providing for me a lot, not only for me, but the whole Ford community. His setup, his lines is very useful if you want to commit to this car, to have a fast guy. Not only him, of course, it's Togo as well. And but I usually find Seb setups a little bit more friendly for my driving style, so I want to thank him.
Well, that was Nicola Kocky having a fantastic run, finishing on the podium in the 3rd position.
And lastly, it's become a bit of a tradition here when we've got Cam and Tim together that we're going to have a little bit of a dual interview. Cam Porter and Tim Porter. Cam finished up in 18th, Tim down in 31st today. Guys, it looked like it was difficult out there. What was the track feeling like in terms of trying to tackle it today? Because we saw many spins.
Oh, to me, it felt like it was bacon grease and uncooked eggs, man. I could have had a hard time. I survived, lap 1 and lap 2. It's always the hardest. I survived all the heroes, but I did the slow spin and I was way back, and it was a fight all the race, man. I was tired out by the time it was the end of it, just trying to hang on to the thing.
Yeah, I never fought so hard for a top 20. It was really, really tough going out there. I was near the end. I was setting fastest lap after fastest lap, my personal best anyway. But the guys ahead of me just held that gap no matter how hard I drove. So tough crowd today and difficult track conditions, but had a fun race with Rally Wallbank. So thanks to Rally for putting on a good show. And
Well, and I mean, you guys talked about the close fighting Camus. We did check in at one point in the race, and it looked like you were kind of sandwiched between a few cars. Was it pretty tough to pass? My experience here has usually been that overtaking can be kind of tricky.
Well, it was a difficult track, like I said, and it was just basically waiting for people to make a mistake. I finally had a pretty good run on Rally and made a late dive into turn 1 because Christian was on my right, so we were 3 wide going into turn 1. I was trying to outbrake them both and went a little bit wide, but was able to make the pass, but Christian passed me, so gained a position and lost a position at the same time. So yeah, difficult track, but had a fun race.
And Tim, we can't fail to mention your paint scheme that everybody seems to love. You gonna get it like a Microsoft Edge or a Firefox scheme for Cam that you'll paint up at some point?
No. I can't be doing that. Those Edge and Microsoft, they're all pretenders. They're Netscape led the way. It's going to be on my car for a while yet. Cam, I'm going to leave him to whatever he wants to do. He likes the red and white. I'm going to leave him alone. But he's his own star. He did very well. I got no excuses for catching him this week. I'll get him next week for sure. I can see it.
Well, we'll keep looking out for you guys. You're always entertaining. Before we let you go, anyone that you two want to thank?
No, not for me. We had a good time. I was racing with a few people today. Everybody was a gentleman. I enjoyed this week for
sure. Shout out to Rally again for just putting on a good show, and thanks for the good racing and the clean racing. We'll see you again in next week.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys. This is Cam Porter and Tim Porter, who definitely looked like they were having fun, but experiencing the difficulties of this car at this track. That's going to wrap us up with a big thank you, of course, to the Grand Prix legends for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and a huge thanks to the team today, Daniel, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race is going to be at Watkins Glen, and this is at the Classic course. So this is the very short version, and that'll be Saturday, February 17th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts, including IMSA Vintage, which is going to be at Aragon at noon Eastern today. So until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
DFV.